On most Steam store pages, developers will try to sell you on their game, listing all the features that make it special and unique. On Dead by Death's store page, the developer instead cautions prospective buyers, telling them actually keep your expectations low with this one. People either die when they're killed, or they die inside after playing Dead by Death. It's a game advertised as a retro-style platformer, where the hero will explore dungeons where are full of traps and find out hidden secrets, to defeat monsters till you die, or live for glory. With a marketing pitch like that, I couldn't wait to get started. So what is Dead by Death? Dead by Death is a 2D Castlevania-like game where you progress through 4 stages of 9 levels each, with each level offering 2 to 5 minutes of content. There are 8 ordinary maze-like levels where you simply have to find the end to continue, and 1 final boss level for each stage. Throughout the levels, you find enemies to combat, as well as platforming challenges. These levels are filled with secrets, and the game rewards you for finding them with materials for the game's crafting system. You can craft ammunition for your guns, potions, upgrades similar to charms, as well as new weapons. That is Dead by Death. Sounds pretty good, right? No, every aspect of this game has been bungled without exception. The number one obstacle in the game is its controls and awkward level design more so than the enemies. On the Steam store page, the developer Will SH says, "You can feel my existence in the game." And I could. After all, it felt like he was right with me, kicking my ass. In a way, the game feels like if Bennett Foddy made an action platformer, like Quap meets Castlevania. The enemies in the game might be the worst part. Some of them are less threatening than a Hollow Knight grub. Some of their attacks literally do nothing. But if you touch that enemy, the contact damage will teach you the true meaning of the game's name. Every second of Dead by Death felt like getting slapped in the face. Yet somehow, there was a part of me that kind of enjoyed it. Let's break it down piece by piece. In Dead by Death, you have a double jump, melee attack, ranged shot, and a button to swap guns. All attacks in the game have an oddly long cooldown between each use. And as a speedrunner who's used to finding glitches, I quickly discovered you can simply swap weapons rapidly to shoot all of them at once. So this game learned nothing from Cuphead, even though Dead by Death actually released a year after it. The weapon swap exploit unintentionally made the game significantly more enjoyable, because the alternative is taking a pot shot, retreating, waiting for the enemy AI to loop back to a position where you can safely hit it, and repeating over and over. Yet that's far from the most offensive thing about this game's combat. In Dead by Death, you're unable to aim diagonally, or even crouch to adjust your shot height. Super Metroid released in 1994, 24 years before Dead by Death, and had both of these features. You can jump to hit enemies above you, but if an enemy is just a few pixels below your character's face, it might as well be invincible because you're not hitting it. That is, until you get upgrades like the pistol sputter, which while cool on its own is frankly a band-aid upon a hemorrhaging wound. To make matters worse, the developer decided to place destructible torches which will absorb your bullets everywhere throughout the game. The torches don't drop anything useful, but effectively act as shields for the enemies. In a game where you're normally getting your ammunition through crafting, wasting it on torches and proceeding to get hit by the enemies behind them wasn't my favorite thing. Dead by Death has 4 different weapons, but they're not actually very different. I was excited to try the rocket launcher, just to discover it's identical to the pistol in every way, with the only difference being that it deals more damage. The shotgun was the only weapon that felt considerably different, and it sucks. It shoots 5 projectiles in an arc, each dealing 2 damage, and you have to be right next to the enemy to land all the shots. Compare this to the rocket, which deals 15 damage from the safety of long range, and ammunition, which costs the same as the shotguns. But the melee combat, unfortunately, makes even less sense. Similar to your guns, your melee swings have a long-ass cooldown. It's like a Hollow Knight randomizer after you've collected too many curses. It may not seem like a big deal, well, but when an enemy is right beside you, imminently about to deal half your life or more through contact damage, you'll wish you could swing a little bit faster. The range is also insanely short, which is kind of balanced by its lingering hitbox. So the best strategy is to hit the melee button and run into the enemy, treating it more like a tackle than a melee swing. You can try to find the pixel perfect spot to stand and hit an enemy without running into them, but when you land an attack, there's so much recoil, you just sent yourself into another f***ing time zone. So good luck finding that spot again. Dead by Death uses a crafting system for its weapons, upgrades, consumables, and ammunition. Every single upgrade for your character in the game is crafted. All of the upgrades and weapons cost roughly the same amount of materials to make, and there's something weird about being able to craft the rocket launcher, which deals a couple times more damage than the pistol, just a few levels into the game. Now, unless you're willing to spend double-digit hours playing the game, you won't unlock all the craftables. This means you'll have to make some tough choices based upon incomplete item descriptions written in broken English. You start Dead by Death with 50 HP and 5% crit, which the developer decided should be part of the HUD. Now, 50 HP is enough to survive 2 to 3 hits. We'll talk more about enemies and hazards later, but let it suffice to say that it's very easy to take that much damage. I prioritized getting an upgrade that says, when collect a certain number of souls, will be automatically converted to health. This upgrade seemed pretty useful based off the description. Only after crafting and equipping it, I only noticed the effect occur twice ever. I still don't understand how the effect triggers, but even if I did, it only healed for 10 health at a time, and I could take up to 35 damage per hit. Now, if I wanted to craft different upgrades, I'd have to find more secrets, because the important crafting items drop exclusively within secrets. To find a secret in Dead by Death, simply slam your face into every surface you see, because some will allow you to pass straight through, but there's no visual indicator. There's no hints pointing you toward them. You just have to try and walk or jump into every wall. About halfway through the game, I couldn't take another minute of it, so I just stopped looking for secrets, which meant I stopped getting crafting materials, ultimately meaning I couldn't get more upgrades for my character. The level and enemy design in Dead by Death is terrible. You know how Team Cherry decided to make Silksong a full game rather than a DLC because Hornet was too tall for Hollow Nest? Dead by Death is like if Team Cherry made f***ing Bardoon a playable character in Hollow Knight and just said, good luck playing the game. The vast majority of the enemies in the game have Goomba AI. In other words, they move between 2 points perpetually and do not change their movement pattern under any circumstance. Most ranged enemies attack periodically, regardless of where the player is or what they're doing. Melee enemies generally perform an attack if the player gets within range, but don't ever chase or move toward the player. There are some exceptions, such as the Zangief clones who spawn spikes from the ceiling by stomping, or the Soul Twisters who jump scare you by teleporting directly in front of your face repeatedly until they die, or the Necromancers who literally don't do anything, but if you hit them, it spawns a bat. Or how about the Lizards with guns who walk back and forth, shooting periodically, and also periodically turn invincible, represented by their sprite going transparent. Now, because you start the game with a double jump, if the level design were less cramped, the player would simply jump over 90% of these enemies and ignore them. As a game designer, you could either choose not to give the player the double jump, or make the entire game a cramped, claustrophobic tunnel. And for Will SH, that was an easy choice. But I did actually enjoy the game's mix of platforming and combat. I mean, the final stage feels like a collab with the Pale King, there's so many saw blades. There's plenty of hazards strewn throughout the map which present a decent challenge, but some things were confusing. For example, stage 3 introduces red lasers, which I learned through trial and error that you have to shoot wait to deactivate. And as you get closer and closer to the final stage, the game throws more and more one-hit saw blades at you. These saw blades eventually became so oppressive that I would damage tank through laser beams, chunking me for a quarter of my life at a time, rather than attempt to maneuver around them. You typically die in 2 or 3 hits. You're going to want to spend your souls on ammunition rather than the prohibitively expensive healing potions, and healing items in the levels were quite rare. To top it off, there's also no checkpoints in the game. If you die at the beginning of the level or 5 pixels away from the end, you lose your progress all the same and get sent back to the start. That means one tiny mistake often results in several minutes of progress lost. I feel like this is unexpected in a game where many enemies deal over half your health in a single hit, but part of me actually enjoyed the tension and level of challenge this provided. Although as much as I was loving things up to this point, the game lost me with its bosses. I can forgive basic enemies that don't react to the player and simply move between waypoints, but not bosses. Yet that's unironically every boss in the game. You fall into the boss arena and it just flies around in a circle, performing attacks periodically, and the attacks aren't even aimed at you. There's not any thematic or functional differences between the bosses either. All you do in each fight is find a safe spot and attack the boss when it flies past. If you try to navigate around the room, you'll get caught between the boss and all of the traps around the arena, so it's best to stay patient and sit your ass down until the boss finishes its lap and gives you an opportunity to effortlessly hit it for free. Dead by Death has no plot, no dialogue, no characters, and no music. There's almost no variety in the gameplay from level to level, with each stage playing roughly the same, and having minimal thematic differences beyond the artwork. Every aspect of the game design is flawed. By the end, I was frustrated and ranting incoherently after every death. I just wanted it to be over. Yet what Willa Sage said earlier was true. I really did feel their presence in the game. They're a heartless bastard who wants to punish every poor sap who made the mistake of buying their game. And I felt it. Part of me even respected it. Making games isn't easy, and I could tell that the developer put forth an honest effort. Dead by Death is not the worst game on Steam, but unless you want to know what it feels like to be dying by death, avoid it. Very funny. That has a different attack. It's the same enemy as the other times. That's what I did last time. And also, like, these enemies, I can't fucking hit them. I can't hit them. Oh, last got soloed by a frog. And I gotta learn the speed tech for when I speedrun this game. Oh my,